A slow count 1, 2, 3, and then the song starts. No introduction needed. No context required. Just the music arriving and the room changing temperature the moment it does. That was 1964 on a good night. 10 records from that year have never left the conversation.
It's been too hard. It's been a long
10 songs that arrived in 1964 with such force and such emotional truth that 60 years later they still sound like something recorded yesterday by people who understood exactly what they were doing. Stick around, because one of these songs was recorded by an artist who believed it would be the last record she ever made at her label, and it became the biggest hit of her career. Another was written overnight as a direct response to America's racial violence, and its creator knew the moment he finished it that the song would outlast everything else he'd ever done. Both are on this list. 10 songs. Let's go back to 1964.
but I know
10. My Guy, Mary Wells. Smokey Robinson wrote and produced this for Mary Wells with the specific intention of creating a record that answered every possible challenge to the narrator's loyalty, not with vulnerability or pleading, but with the absolute confidence of someone who simply does not need to justify her commitment to anyone.
My opinion is he's the cream of the crop, away from my guy.
The lyric is constructed like a legal argument, every potential objection raised and dismissed. Every alternative rejected, not because it lacks appeal but because the narrator's devotion is simply not up for negotiation.
Bear with him. The girl with a very much imitated vocal style.
That confidence, delivered by Wells with a warmth that prevented it from sounding cold, became the record's defining quality. It reached #1 on both the pop and R&B charts in 1964 and became one of the most celebrated Motown singles of the year, the record that established Mary Wells as one of the label's premier voices before a contract dispute ended her relationship with Motown that same year. She never returned to that commercial height. My Guy remains the clearest evidence of what she was capable of at her peak and what the label lost when she left. The stories behind these 1964 records, the creative decisions, the personal circumstances, the moments that produced something this good. This channel goes into all of it every single week. Subscribe so the next deep dive finds you. 9. Walk On by Dionne Warwick. Burt Bacharach and Hal David wrote this after years of building a songwriting partnership that had already produced significant hits. The specific instruction they gave themselves for this lyric to describe the specific pain of passing someone you still love on the street and having to pretend you're fine produced one of the most emotionally precise lyrics in the soul catalog. Dionne Warwick recorded it with the signature sophistication that her voice brought to everything Bacharach and David wrote for her, a vocal approach so controlled and so musically literate that the emotion in the lyric arrived through restraint rather than despite it. She never oversang. She never reached for effect. The feeling was always exactly as large as it needed to be and never larger. It reached #6 on the pop chart and became one of the most covered songs in pop music, recorded by artists across jazz, soul, country, and pop for decades after its release.
And I start to cry each time.
Every version confirmed something the original had established. The combination of Bacharach's melody and the specific emotional precision of the scenario was essentially inexhaustible. From a song about controlled emotion on a public street, we move to one that asks for nothing less than everything. 8. How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You, Marvin Gaye.
my emotions I won't stop.
Holland Dozier Holland wrote this at the peak of their collaboration with the Motown Machine, a period so creatively productive that the team was delivering finished songs faster than the label could record and release them.
All the things I do, things I've done them before.
The specific challenge they set themselves here was to write a love song built entirely on gratitude, not desire, not longing, but the specific warmth of being on the receiving end of genuine devotion.
Sweet love, without you in my life.
Marvin Gaye recorded it with a lightness in the vocal that he didn't always bring to his Motown material, a playfulness that matched the lyrics' generosity and made the record feel like a celebration rather than a declaration.
Because girl, you don't know how sweet needed the shelter of someone's arms.
The arrangement gave him room to move inside the groove, and he moved with the confidence of someone who understood exactly how good the song was. It reached the top 10 on both charts in 1964 and became one of the most covered Marvin Gaye records. James Taylor recorded a version that became a significant hit in its own right, which introduced the song to a completely different audience without diminishing the original.
Thank you, baby. And devotion.
From gratitude expressed as pure joy, we move to a record that turned spiritual conviction into one of the most propulsive grooves of the decade. 7. Keep on Pushing, The Impressions.
Keep on pushing.
Curtis Mayfield wrote this from inside the specific experience of the civil rights movement as a young black man watching what was happening in the American South and needing to express both the difficulty of the moment and the absolute necessity of continuing through it. The lyric operates on two levels simultaneously.
I can't see my strength. It don't make sense.
As a love song, it is a message of personal encouragement from one person to another. As a statement about the broader struggle, it is something considerably more significant, a gospel-rooted declaration that the direction of history was ultimately on the side of those willing to keep moving toward justice regardless of the obstacles placed in the path.
Keep on pushing.
The Impressions delivered it with the vocal sophistication that had become their signature. Curtis Mayfield's falsetto floating above the harmonies of Fred Cash and Sam Gooden, the arrangement balancing the spiritual weight of the message against the commercial accessibility of the production.
With just a little bit of
It became one of the most celebrated records in the Impressions catalog and one of the defining soul gospel crossover records of the civil rights era. The message it carried was permanent.
'Cause I've got
The groove underneath it made the message unavoidable. Did you grow up with a record that carried a message that layered something that worked as a song and as a statement at the same time? Drop that in the comments. 6. Dancing in the Street, Martha and the Vandellas. William Mickey Stevenson and Marvin Gaye wrote this in a Motown session that moved quickly, a groove so immediately compelling that the arrangement came together faster than most of what the label produced. Martha Reeves recorded the vocal with an urgency that went beyond what the lyric technically required and gave the record an energy that transcended its surface meaning. The song is about dancing. It is also, in this reading, gained significant currency as the decade progressed, about something more expansive than that.
Hits. This is one of the songs therein. A lot of people have done this.
The specific cities named, the specific invitation extended across every demographic boundary that existed in 1964, made Dancing in the Street read to different audiences in different ways simultaneously. It reached number 2 on the pop chart and number 4 on the R&B chart in 1964 and became one of the most covered records of its era. David Bowie and Mick Jagger recorded a version in 1985 that introduced it to an audience that had grown up decades after the original. The Martha Reeves vocal remains the definitive performance. The urgency she brought to it has never been replicated. If this countdown is bringing back the music that defined 1964 for you, share it with someone who grew up singing these songs. The conversations these records start are always worth having. From a record that filled every street in America, we arrive at the Motown label's commercial center of gravity for 1964.
Selling charts for over a year. It's called Martha and the Vandellas' Great.
5. Where Did Our Love Go? The Supremes. The Supremes almost didn't record this. Holland Dozier Holland had written it for the Marvelettes, who passed on it. When it was offered to the Supremes, the group was uncertain the melody sat lower than Diana Ross's most comfortable range, and the production style felt different from what they had been doing. They recorded it anyway. It spent 2 weeks at #1 on the pop chart and launched the most commercially successful run in Motown history, the first of 5 consecutive #1 singles that Holland Dozier Holland would produce for the group over the following year. The low end of Ross's voice on this record, forced downward by the song's range, produced a warmth and an intimacy that her higher register performances sometimes didn't carry. The vulnerability in the delivery matched the vulnerability in the lyric, a woman asking a question she already knows the answer to but cannot stop herself from asking.
And it hurts so bad.
The record that the Marvelettes passed on and the Supremes were uncertain about became the record that defined both the group and the label's commercial peak. The decision to record it anyway is one of the most consequential yes votes in Motown history. 4. Baby I Need Your Loving, for Tops. The Four Tops had been performing together since the early 1950s, over a decade of music together before this record arrived. That specific quality of a group that has been playing together long enough to anticipate each other is audible in the vocal interplay, in the way Levi Stubbs' lead sits on top of the harmonies with an authority that only comes from years of shared performance. Holland Dozier Holland wrote the song as the Four Tops' Motown debut, the record that would introduce them to the label's mainstream audience for the first time. The stakes of the moment required something that could establish the group's identity immediately and unambiguously.
Will I ever be the same?
The production delivered the urgency. Stubbs delivered everything else. It reached the top 10 on the pop chart and the top 5 on the R&B chart in 1964 and began one of the most celebrated careers in Motown history. The desperation in Stubbs' vocal-controlled, precise, never tipping into excess became the signature that every subsequent Four Tops record was measured against. Still to come the 3 records that close this countdown. A song that changed what the Temptations could be, and the record that many consider the most important soul recording ever made. Both just ahead. 3. Baby Love, The Supremes. The second #1 single of the Supremes' 5 consecutive chart-toppers run arrived with a production so warm and so irresistible that it spent 4 weeks at the top of the pop chart, their longest run at #1 to that point and one of the most dominant commercial performances in Motown history.
But all you do is treat me bad.
Holland Dozier Holland built the track around a tambourine pattern and a melody so immediately singable that radio audiences learned it before they could name the artist. Diana Ross's vocal sits at the center of the arrangement with the same intimate quality that Where Did Our Love Go? Had established a voice that sounded like it was speaking directly to one person rather than broadcasting to a million.
Feel your warmth, embrace my love, release down to me this way.
The record arrived at a moment when the Supremes' commercial momentum was accelerating so rapidly that the industry was struggling to categorize what was happening. 5 consecutive #1s would eventually define the run. Baby Love was the one that made the pattern undeniable. From the commercial peak of one group, we moved to the record that began the commercial ascent of another. 2. My Girl, The Temptations. Smokey Robinson wrote this for the Temptations as a response to Mary Wells' My Guy, the two records in conversation across the gender divide, one narrating absolute loyalty to a man, the other narrating absolute devotion to a woman. The symmetry was deliberate. The quality of both records made the gesture something more than a creative exercise. David Ruffin's lead vocal, his first significant lead for the group, replacing the previous configuration, announced immediately that something had shifted in what the Temptations could do.
What can make me say? What can make me feel?
The voice was raw in a way the group's previous leads hadn't been, emotional in a way that the polished Motown production couldn't fully contain, and the combination of that rawness against the smooth arrangement produced a record of unusual tension.
I've got a sweeter song than the
It reached #1 on the pop chart and became the record that defined what the Temptations were not just to their immediate audience, but to every generation that discovered them afterward.
all the riches, baby.
60 years later, the opening guitar figure still produces an involuntary response in anyone who grew up in the era of soul music it helped define. Which Temptations record do you reach for first, and what does it remind you of when you hear it? 1. A Change Is Gonna Come, Sam Cooke.
But I'm afraid to die.
Sam Cooke wrote this after an incident in Louisiana where he and his entourage were turned away from a whites-only motel, a moment of specific humiliation that connected to everything he had been watching unfold across the American South over the previous years. He sat with the lyric for months before recording it, understanding what he was building and what it would mean. The orchestral arrangement he recorded it with was unlike anything in his previous catalog: cinematic, sweeping, the strings building underneath a vocal of unusual gravity even for a voice as gifted as his. The lyric described suffering with honesty and promised change with conviction, and the combination of those two things in a 3-minute song produced something that immediately transcended the commercial context it was released into. Cooke was killed in December 1964, weeks after the record was released.
Change gon' come.
He never heard it become what it became: one of the most important American recordings of the 20th century, the song that musicians and activists and ordinary people reached for when they needed music that told the truth about what America was and what it owed to the people it had wronged. 60 years on, the promise it carried has not fully been delivered. The record keeps asking for it anyway. 10 songs. All of them from 1964. All of them are still completely, permanently alive. The soul music of 1964 was produced by artists who understood something that the industry sometimes forgot: that the most commercially successful music and the most emotionally true music were not in competition with each other, that a song could top the charts and tell the truth simultaneously, that what people wanted to hear and what they needed to hear were often exactly the same thing. These 10 records proved all of that in a single year.
Change gon'
They're still proving it. Which one means the most to you, and what does it take you back to when you hear it? Drop it in the comments. And if there's a 1964 soul record that should have made this list, name it.
Then I go.
There were enough great ones that we could have gone twice as deep. And if going this deep into the music that shaped American life is what you come here for, this channel does exactly this every single week. Subscribe so the next one finds you when it drops.